Part 1. The neighbor who doesn't know he's moved out. I need to get this off my chest because I'm starting to feel like the bad guy in my own life. My neighbor, Mr. Holden, is 84. Quiet. Polite. The kind of man who still wears a tucked-in button-down just to check the mail. I've lived next door to him for 6 years, and over time, I sort of became his unofficial helper, bringing him dinner when his arthritis flared up, watering his plants when he forgot, sitting with him on the porch when he felt lonely. I've spent enough time in his house that I know every creaky floorboard and every picture on the wall. 2 weeks ago, his daughter came by with a moving truck. She told me he'd had a fall. Nothing too serious, but enough that he needed to stay with her for a while. They packed up his clothes, his photos, his favorite recliner. She said he'd be back eventually, once he was steady on his feet again. I wished them well. I even helped carry boxes. That should have been the end of it. Except the very next morning, I heard his front door open. I looked out my window, and there he was, Mr. Holden, shuffling down his driveway in slippers, newspaper tucked under his arm like always. Same routine, same pace, same little nod he gives the magpies on the fence. I froze. I'd literally watched him leave the day before. I went outside and gently told him he wasn't supposed to be here. He just smiled and said, "Of course I am. I live here." I didn't argue. I figured maybe he'd forgotten and wandered back. I called his daughter. She sounded confused and said she'd check on him immediately. 10 minutes later, she called back. He was sitting right next to her, safe, eating breakfast. She even put him on the phone. He laughed and said, "You must have seen someone else." But I hadn't. I know what I saw. Since then, it's happened every morning. I hear his door. I see him walk to the mailbox. Sometimes he waters the plants. Sometimes he sits on the porch and hums old jazz tunes. He never speaks to me again. He never acknowledges me at all. And every time I call his daughter, she tells me he hasn't left her house. Yesterday, I finally worked up the courage to walk over and knock on his door. The house was empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no dishes, no curtains, just bare floors and dust outlines where things used to be. But as I turned to leave, I heard the screen door creak behind me. I didn't have to look to know who was standing there. He said, in a voice that didn't sound like his, "I'm not the one who's confused.